Tonight, speed-related deaths on Ontario roads hit a 10-year high.
The leading cause of death right now on our highways is speeding or aggressive driving.
The OPP say speed-related deaths increased by more than 30% last year compared to the year before, with deaths related to distracted driving also seeing a big jump. Plus,
no water, no food, and we have to turn off the lights.
A Ukrainian couple tells of their harrowing experience after Russia invaded their country and their long journey to safety in Toronto. And
we used to have to get up 6 a.m. in the morning in the winter to go to a soccer center to train.
Some proud and excited parents in Brampton. More than a handful of the players on the Canadian men's soccer team are from that city, and they have a chance to clinch a spot in the World Cup in Costa Rica tomorrow. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, the OPP have a warning for drivers. Slow down. According to a report released today, speed-related deaths on OPP-patrolled roads hit a 10-year high in 2021. And they say the situation is only getting worse. Dale Manukduk takes a look.
When looking at the factors behind fatal crashes over the last 10 years, the OPP say two dangerous behaviors consistently stood out: speeding and aggressive driving.
If you're operating a vehicle, we always say it, whoever's behind that wheel needs to have 100% attention on the roads around them, sharing the road safely and responsibly, and that includes, abiding by the posted speed limits.
According to the OPP, the number of fatal collisions rose in 2021 compared to the year before, as did the number of people killed, with speed-related deaths up by 31%, resulting in 81 lives lost, a 10-year high. Inattentive driving as a factor was also up significantly by 29%.
You are behind the correct vehicle.
About 157,000 speeding tickets were handed out on OPP-patrolled roads. It's a trend that CAA has been seeing even before the pandemic, but hit overdrive during lockdowns due to lower traffic volumes. A survey of 1,500 Ontario drivers found over 80% witnessed speeding.
What was also concerning was that 42% admitted to speeding themselves, and 7% admitted to aggressive driving.
CAA says they're seeing more young drivers on the road, a demographic they're targeting with messages about the dangers of speeding.
There's a lot of stunt driving and aggressive and speeding driving that's happening, not just on our roads, but even in parking lots. And so this all seems very exciting, but it should be reserved for the video games and the movies because it has very serious consequences.
The OPP tweeted this photo last week. An officer caught a driver going 116 in a 60-kilometer zone. The person is now facing stunt driving charges with his license suspended and vehicle impounded. Meanwhile, the numbers are already up significantly this year from January to March 20th.
We've had 60 people die already this year compared to 38 during the same period of last year. Speeding and aggressive driving still is the #1 killer.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A new report says food bank visits for Ontarians will only drop if income supports are raised.
If we adjusted disability by just $15 a month, the result would be about 54,000 less client visits annually to the food bank. And that's why this report's important, because all three levels of government can read it and understand clearly what are the social policies that they need to enact so that we can reduce poverty and reduce food bank usage.
A paper by University of Calgary researchers on Toronto's Daily Bread Food Bank says usage increased by 53% from 2014 to 2020. It suggests that's due to a rise in rent and food prices. Daily Bread Food Bank says pre-pandemic they would have 55,000 people in need of their services per month. Now that number is about 130,000. And we're learning more about allegations against former Unifor National President Jerry Diaz.
Investigation found that Diaz accepted money from a supplier of COVID-19 rapid test kits that he had introduced to employers of Unifor members. At some point prior to January 20th, 2022, Diaz accepted the sum of $50,000 from the supplier.
Unifor didn't identify the companies who bought the COVID test kits or the supplier. The union says after an external investigation, Diaz stands charged with violating Unifor's constitution for engaging in what they say are ethical breaches. Diaz recently left the position of Unifor president, saying he was retiring because of ongoing health issues. He issued a statement today saying he's entering a rehab facility. Diaz says his judgment has been impaired in recent months from the use of painkillers, sleeping pills, and alcohol to deal with a sciatic nerve issue. Unifor's executive board will hold a hearing into the matter. It has been a month since Russia invaded Ukraine, and on many fronts, the Russian advance has slowed to a crawl, with NATO now estimating between 7,000 and 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed.
Противника і наразі 105 літаків противника вважаються знищеними.
This advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reports more than 100 Russian planes have been destroyed so far. And Ukraine's military says it has regained control of more suburbs around its capital of Kyiv. But Russian assaults continue to target civilians, despite Moscow's claims that its forces are only firing back when they are attacked. And according to the UN, nearly 3.5 million people in Ukraine have fled the country since fighting began exactly 1 month ago. And tonight, we're hearing from a couple who embarked on a harrowing escape from Ukraine to Romania and ultimately Toronto, where they're now trying to settle into their new lives. Alicia Son has their story.
Well, everything started the 24th of February. Actually at 5 a.m. when we woke up because of the explosions. And at that moment, everybody realized that the war had begun.
Irene Ilchenka, Alexandra Samarodova, and their son Noah gave themselves 35 minutes to pack and head down to their building's parking garage, where they stayed for 2 days, using it as a bomb shelter. They had their 2 cats, Robin, Rue, and their dog Bimba by their side. And as a family, they decided to take an evacuation train out of Kyiv.
And it was like nightmare.
They would make their way between air raid sirens.
When you're going to the train station and you hear the sirens, you need to find a safe place, but you cannot find it.
The scene at the train station was unlike anything Irene and Alexandra could have ever imagined.
It was so scary. I was thinking that we can lost our pets, our dog.
People were sleeping, sitting, standing everywhere. Yes. No water, no food, and we have to turn off the light because it was the night and for the train not to be seen from the sky. So it took us like 18 hours.
What do you tell a 6-year-old in this situation?
We told him that we're going to win, everything will be okay, we have a great army, yes, because it's true.
With the help of friends and volunteers helping people flee, they made their way to Romania and started planning their escape to Toronto.
We have friends here. They found this place, they found people that provide us this apartment. They found all these clothes, toys for Noah, because we didn't have anything, literally.
Yeah, Noah had only one toy and one book.
Yes. So
now he had like a lot of everything.
Even a Toronto Raptors toque. That's them taking their cat Robin for a checkup at their new vet office. And Noah, he's already enrolled at an elementary school down the street and making fast friends.
Like yesterday, he brought a message from one girl from the school. Yeah.
Their gratefulness is sometimes tinged with feelings of guilt as the come down from the trauma sets in.
Because some people, they're staying there, so...
Survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
So as they plan for their future, they spend an equal amount of time helping others back home navigate to safety. Again, with their pets by their side.
Heroes, our personal heroes. Yes. Yes.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, all about the rains, freezing rain and winds today.
Yeah, really. There was a little bit of, ice pellet activity early this morning into the city, but otherwise the ice pellets and freezing rain have been more to the north or northwest, and now over towards eastern Ontario as well, as we're seeing the system work its way through. Still have the special weather statement, though, for the GTA. Those winds carrying on pretty strong from the east. They'll start to ease up through the overnight hours, and they'll actually shift direction back into southwestern Ontario. Eventually, we'll see that, too, into tomorrow. And that rainfall, yeah, we are looking at some of those totals, 15 towards 20 millimeters, but working the heavier stuff now off towards the east, and becomes a little bit more widespread and scattered in terms of the nature of the rainfall. Still can have some wet conditions tomorrow. I was hoping for some sunny breaks. I think they're going to be kind of hard to find, but we are going to see warming temperatures as we go into tomorrow, and I think that will be welcome for many. So tonight, that temperature actually coming up through the overnight hours, up to 10 degrees for the high tomorrow. The winds will still be a little bit gusty tomorrow, but from the south to southwest, just not like they were today, Kelvin.
Thanks so much, Colette. Members of Toronto's Bangladeshi community are trying to shine a light on the rise in gender-based violence during the pandemic. A not-for-profit group has released a new study that it says shows just how many women experience violence during COVID. And as Farah Morali tells us, the survey found most women didn't speak out.
I didn't know even how to react on that situation, because in even my worst nightmare, I didn't expect that.
For Afsana Rahman, the fear of her husband began right after her wedding. She says she was sexually assaulted by him in a hotel. But it was just the beginning. She went on to endure years of sexual, physical, and verbal abuse.
I made a pact with myself that no matter what happens with me, I'll keep it with myself.
It's a reality Charmine knows well. CBC News agreed to protect her identity.
When I was 8 months pregnant, he hit my head so badly. He punched my head here, left side, as he is a right-handed person. So he punched me.
She suffered a brain hemorrhage just a few days after giving birth. It still impacts her vision and balance. Though these experiences predated the pandemic, a new study is shedding light on gender-based violence in Toronto's Bangladeshi community during COVID. The report was released by the Canadian Centre for Information and Knowledge. Of the 77 women surveyed, half said they'd experienced gender-based violence during the pandemic, but most went unreported. Among the reasons for not speaking out, cultural, specifically a male-dominated attitude, and a prevailing belief that they shouldn't speak out.
The other issue is like language barriers. So they don't know where to go, where to say something like that.
The study's authors say speaking out can be especially hard for newcomers who are financially dependent on their spouse.
So that's another reason, because they thought if they will speak out, that will delay their process of getting citizenship here. So that's another reason. And culturally, especially women, they think about the safety of their kids.
COVID has had a very adverse impact on women going through abuse, particularly in racialized communities.
The report's findings don't come as a surprise to the South Asian Women's Centre. It's received hundreds of calls during the pandemic from women trapped in abusive situations.
I think this study kind of reflects what other South Asian communities are going through as well.
The authors are now calling for better education for newcomers and easier access to support services in their language. Women like Rahman are now sharing their story in hopes others have the courage to speak out.
Unless they share, they will never be able to overcome.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto has released its first reconciliation action plan to improve the lives of First Nations, Inuit and Metis people in the city.
I want Toronto to be in a position of leadership when it comes to reconciliation, because we have a large Indigenous population, but also because, and more importantly, it is the right thing for us to do.
We started today with a really important ceremony. That's really, we have to ground ourselves in that, in doing this work.
Elder Dorothy Peters walked officials through a traditional smudging ceremony at today's announcement. Tory says the plan aims to strengthen Indigenous relations, make financial reparations, and restore truth. A part of it includes supporting Indigenous businesses and artists and hiring more First Nations, Inuit and Metis people to work at the City of Toronto. The proposal will be considered by the city's executive committee next week. Welcome back. Canada took a big step into the age of electric vehicles today. A massive factory plan for Windsor will make batteries for them, and 2,500 people will work there. Chris Ensing shows us a city in celebration, even though the business plan carries some risk.
This is transformational. It is massive.
The modernization of the automotive industry continues in the auto capital of Canada. LG Energy and automaker Stellantis, parent company of Chrysler, are partnering to build the country's first electric vehicle battery plant, a $5 billion investment.
This is the largest automotive manufacturing investment in the history of our province, and I'm sure it's probably the history of our country as well.
It includes hundreds of millions of federal and provincial dollars, but neither government will say exactly how much it invested. Ontario's auto industry has lost thousands of jobs in recent years. Stellantis' minivan plant in Windsor, once a 3-shift operation, will be cut to a single shift this summer. This announcement, a jolt of joy.
It's probably the biggest and the best investment that I've heard in my 57 years here. We're all excited.
The battery plant promises 2,500 jobs, ready by 2025, just as the local Stellantis assembly line finishes retooling to build an electric vehicle. It puts the automaker on track for its internal zero-emission targets, half of their vehicles electric by 2030.
This battery plant is going to supply across North America for us as one of 2 that we have visioned. And so we're very pleased. Based on location, it's a perfect spot.
Industry analysts say it's a bold move that carries risk in the face of American protectionism.
I think the hope is that the Buy America rhetoric will not get stronger. LG is taking a risk here.
Stellantis said it selected Windsor in part for the rich automotive history. The world's first ever minivan was made here 39 years ago. Now, it's the birthplace of Canada's electric vehicle industry. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Rain quite heavy at times tonight, but has been tapering off as we head into the overnight. Currently, it is about 3 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your full forecast. And Colette, the wet weather continuing into tomorrow, but temperatures rising.
Yeah, so that is the positive side of things, is that we are going to see those temperatures even getting into a daytime high, double digits tomorrow. So those improving as the winds will change direction and coming more from a southerly direction instead of these stronger easterly winds that we've been experiencing. Yes, some ponding on the roadways from some of this heavier rain that's been moving through, becoming heavier into eastern Ontario, and there are some slick areas too with the freezing rain. By morning, as those temperatures come up, we are talking about it just being kind of rain shower activity in that form and not freezing rain or ice pellets mixed in certain areas. And then late in the day tomorrow, we'll carve out some clearing. Could have a few breaks earlier, but still some scattered showers in the forecast. And then you're going to see this next line go through, which kind of dries up. So mostly into Friday, it just brings us at times, especially along the lakeshore, some light showers kind of mixing with wet flurries at times. So the warm up is for tomorrow, and then we are going to find the temperatures coming back down again. In terms of what's still to come from that rain moving through and getting those totals up around that 15 millimeter area, but there will be a few pockets where we're going to see more like 20, or even because of a few earlier like embedded thunderstorms, some locally heavier amounts there. So 20 millimeters even possible by tomorrow morning with some of the scattered nature coming in. All right. This is what it looks like. You do have to contend with some fog, so some reduced visibility that'll linger into tomorrow morning. So be aware of that, Windsor. So not so much just the wet conditions; those will be improving, but that you may have some slow areas on the roads for that morning commute due to that reduced visibility. And there, your winds changing a little bit sooner. You'll find the temperature kind of nearly steady. We're actually going to find that temperature rising through the overnight hours. Eventually, we'll see these winds backing off. But those are the overnight temperatures. Where they keep coming up to and start looking pretty good is for Thursday when we get to the afternoon, up to 10 degrees. It's kind of a gentler cool down back to seasonal for Friday, Saturday, and then there's going to be nothing gentle about it, Kelda, as we get to the end of the weekend, kind of Sunday, Monday, looking pretty chilly.
All right. Thanks so much, Colette. The Canadian men's soccer team has been on a hot streak, and they can clinch a berth to the FIFA World Cup with a win against Costa Rica tomorrow. Now, among the players, more than a handful come from Peel region. Greg Ross caught up with some of their families in Brampton ahead of tomorrow's big game.
David Jr. Hollett has spent his entire adult life playing soccer in Britain. He now lives there with his family, but the Team Canada forward got his start in his hometown of Brampton.
We used to have to get up 6 a.m. in the morning in the winter to go to a soccer center to train, snowstorm or not.
His mother, Ingrid Hollett, says soccer was a year-round sport for her son when he was younger, but that wasn't the norm for most kids in Canada at the time.
It's not, oh, play soccer in the summer just to stay in shape for hockey.
David Hollett Sr. says his son's passion for the game came from him. He grew up playing soccer in Jamaica.
That was very important, that the parents here, they were soccer parents.
Atiba Hutchinson's father grew up in Trinidad and played soccer at a high level.
I used to play on Sunday mornings, so I used to take him to all my games when he was a little kid.
When Atiba was old enough to play, his father was one of his coaches in Brampton.
I get involved because I know the game, and I know how I wanted my son to play.
As the players got better, so did the coaching. Eventually, it wasn't just dads who were taking on those roles.
Getting the right people to develop the players is a central part of it, and a real key part.
Desmond Gardner is the head coach with the East Brampton Soccer Club, and he coached Hutchinson when he was younger. He says coaches in Brampton are some of the best in the country, in large part because of the diversity of the city.
Soccer's their first sport, and that's important because they've grown up because they've been playing the sport, and many are from Europe and from parts of the Americas and parts of Africa and so forth, so they really understand the game.
For the players, parents and coaches, years of hard work is now on the verge of paying off, especially for a player like Hutchinson, who is the oldest player on Team Canada.
He's worked so hard all of his, soccer career to get to this point, and especially since this is his last run, it's big for him and it means everything.
Hutchinson and the rest of Team Canada can clinch a World Cup berth with a win over Costa Rica tomorrow night. Greg Ross, CBC News, Brampton.
All right, go Team Canada. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.